in a game. 20.
Swung on and driven to deep left. And a hit. Down for Yankees win. Yankees win. Bernie Williams homers deep in the left field seat to lead off the 11th inning at a 1-run finish. And the Yankees beat the Orioles 5-4 to win Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Burn, baby, burn. He's done it again.
Deep left. There it goes. Stepping into history. He's done it. He has done it. 62. Aaron Judge is the American League single-season home run leader. The AL King. Case closed.
What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And as you saw in that open, we are continuing our series here, examining the state of the franchise. From championship glory to rebuilding years, every team has a story. And the story that we're going to be examining on this episode is that of the Kansas City Royals. And it is my honor to introduce our guest, Matt Brines.
Hi, how's it going? Nice to be here, man.
What's going on, Matt?
Not much. Excited to talk ball, excited to talk Royals.
Absolutely. So, obviously, when it comes to the Kansas City Royals, they were a very interesting team last year, and there's no doubt about it that there's somebody that is going to be a force to be reckoned with in Major League Baseball. But I kind of want to start and have you give me kind of your gut feelings in almost a retrospective of the 2024 season.
Yeah, so absolutely. So last season, I think, was a shock to all us Royals fans. We expected to be more competitive just because we spent, $133 million in the offseason, which was, our owner, John Sherman, had said, hey, we're going to be busy in the offseason, but nobody expected, that level of spending, which we all were ecstatic about for sure. I know I was. So it was one of those things, okay, well, now we spent the money, but can the play correlate with the money spent, So when we, 180 games, we went from losing over 100 to turning around and winning it to 80, over 80 wins. It was such a culture shock for us having to deal with so many years of pain and misery, it seems like. Since 2015, after that year, man, it's gone downhill. So that was a really good bright spot for us. We had so much fun. I personally had so much fun watching the team last year because, honestly, it might sound dumb, but it almost looked like the guys were having fun on the field. That was what made me happy was, okay, I'm not watching a team who doesn't even look like they want to be here. I'm watching a team that is happy to play, happy to come out for the fans, happy to win ball games. And so we've spent a lot of money this offseason as well. So I'm excited to see what's gonna go down this season.
No, for sure. Definitely a lot of different things happening with the Royals. So just kind of want to look at some of those moves that you were alluding to that got made. Michael Lorenzen was brought in, Carlos Estevez, Jonathan India was traded for, just some of the big ones that were done. In your mind, what was the biggest acquisition that was made for the Royals and the impact that you think it's going to have?
100% without hesitation is Jonathan India. We brought him in to be the leadoff hitter last year. We had Bobby Witt Jr. at the 2, Salvi at the 3, so we had Vinny at the 3 and Salvi at the 4. But outside of those 3, it was hard to get that leadoff guy on base. Michael Garcia showed flashes during the season of it, great contact skills, but it wasn't a consistent spot for us. We tried other guys in there. We signed Tommy Pham, got Tommy at the trade deadline, and he was a good acquisition for us in the leadoff spot. But obviously he signed with the Pirates. So I think that when we got Jonathan, it was awesome. India is going to be great. He's a proven track record, both when he was at University of Florida, SEC baseball, best in the country. performed great at the leadoff spot. Then he comes in the majors with Cincinnati. Very, very just a consistent ball player in that leadoff spot. That will be so crucial for us. And that 100% to me is the biggest acquisition because it was just the biggest need. I know that GM JJ Piccolo had said that his first item on the docket for the offseason was to see if they can get Michael Wacha to a contract extension, get him a couple more years. And the second thing was the leadoff hitter because everyone kind of realized that, hey, this is a problem and we need to address it. So I was sad to give up Brady Singer in that trade. I loved Brady ever since we took him from Florida, but man, to get Indy is going to be so massive.
Yeah. I definitely, when that move was announced, I was like, man, it's good on both sides and it hurts on both sides. So that's how you knew it was a good trade because it really did address the need for both squads, but it also hurt a bit. I think for Cincinnati a little less because they have so many infielders right now, but it's definitely something that hurts on both sides. So that to me is how you knew it was a good trade to be made because it left a positive but also kind of a negative sting as well. So without a doubt, definitely Jonathan India is going to be a big deal for you guys.
Of course, 100%. And I think what hurts the most about Singer leaving was the fire that he brought to the clubhouse and the competitiveness that he showed on the mound. I mean, dude's a bulldog. He would go out there every single night and anyone who watches baseball and had turned on a Royals game that Brady Singer was throwing, I mean, you saw emotion from him, and I think that the guys fed off that too. If you look in the dugout and they show the camera angles, saying we would get a big punch out and a big spot or something, turn his head to the dugout, and they'd all be going crazy. And I think that that's what is going to be missed most about Singer was not only his consistency and growth from when he started the majors, but the fire that he brought to that clubhouse and the almost veteran leadership of a younger guy is what a lot of people like to say.
In looking at the squad, MLB.com has a couple of guys listed on your injury report. Michael Garcia, who you mentioned earlier, as well as Kyle Wright. Of those injuries or any that have kind of crept up in the last couple of weeks, what do you think is the biggest injury concern for Kansas City heading into 25?
I think we've been relatively blessed without any stupid injuries happening in the offseason. I know Michael Garcia had bone fragments kind of surgically removed from his elbow, and I know that he'll be a tiny bit delayed going into spring, but honestly, I think Kyle Wright is the biggest one for us, and it's weird because he is rehabbing from that shoulder surgery. And the upside of that trade, we sent Jackson Kowar to Atlanta a couple years before last season for Kyle Wright. And I was ecstatic because Kyle Wright was an absolute stud in 2021 for Atlanta. And then he gets to come over to KC, rehab for a year. I'm excited to see what he'll be doing. I think that the biggest question with that injury is how soon can he be back? I know that the Royals have already said that they're not going to sit here and rush him. There's no need for it. I think that he will fit very nicely into that fifth starter spot, which I'm happy to get into later because that's something that's big with the team too, that fifth spot. But I think Kyle Wright's the biggest injury concern for us is getting him healthy and just seeing how long it takes for him to get back. I would assume, and everything I've seen and read has shown that he'll start the year in AAA out of camp to get his pitch count up and build it back up as a starter. I'm hoping that he can join the club, as soon as possible if he's healthy enough. That's the biggest concern for me.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it especially over the last couple of years, just how important, quality starting pitching can be for a championship caliber team. So without a doubt, having a guy like Kyle Wright get back to that 2021 form, like you alluded to, with when he was with Atlanta, would be such a huge boost, especially with the loss of a guy like Brady Singer in that trade. So for sure, being able to get a guy like that can definitely help kind of rebuild some of that lost value in that trade. Now, when we look at the team, and one of the things about this series that I like so much is kind of diving into who the potential X factor for the team can be. So for Kansas City in 2025, who do you believe is that X factor? Maybe a dark horse for the team that you think is going to have either a breakout campaign or something more?
Well, I'll tell you who needs to have a breakout campaign in order for us to really go to where we want to go. MJ Melendez. He, brought up with, Bobby, Vinny, all those guys. He was the idea of, hey, this is going to be the core. This is what was going to be the Alex Gordon, Mike Moustakas, Eric Hosmer of the 2013 through 15 guys. That was the core, right? Well, MJ was supposed to be that in today's day and age. And, in the majors, he's shown flashes here and there of being very, very good. But with him being in the outfield was such a concern for us in terms of like offensive production last year, that I think in order for us to get up the mountaintop, we need to have him have a breakout season, or at least a really good bounce back season. This is a kid he's 26 years old. Making sure I got that right. Yeah, 26 years old. And, he had, when he was in the minor leagues, he had 41 home runs in 1 year between AA and AAA. And the Royals, that's what the Royals saw in him. And that was a big reason he got called up, was those homers. I know that he had posted some videos on social media this offseason of he's retooled his swing. I know it seems like we've said that a couple off seasons now. We've seen, MJ has retooled his swing, 35 home runs coming, but I'm hoping that the Royals hitting coaches can get him back to where he's hitting 40 plus homers a year. If we can get him to have a bounce back campaign, and then to have Bobby and Vinny and Salvi, Massey, and then India, the joining of India is awesome. If we can have all these guys kind of click and get the ball rolling early, MJ being one of those, it'll be very, very, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, you figure if MJ bounces, back to the way that he was, coming up as one of the top prospects for KC, you're talking now you have, 5 deep in that Royals lineup every night with India and Bobby, Vinny, Sal. If MJ can slot in to that 5, maybe that 6 hole and really produce the way he was expected to, that would make for a very big impact bat in the middle of that order for sure. Now, for me, I think it's an obvious name, obviously Bobby Witt Jr. Coming off the season that he came off of, MVP caliber type season, obviously there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. And I think that as he continues to kind of mature in his approach and get even better, I think that there is going to be a lot of eyes on him. But to me, how he goes is how KC goes. So I think that for me, he's the X factor. It's an obvious answer. It's like saying Aaron Judge is the X factor for the Yankees. How he goes, the team goes. But I think that with the success that he had, that second place finish in the MVP, I think that there are MVPs in his future for sure. For me, just seeing what he's able to do as the leader of this club, the new wave of George Brett for, KC, to me is something that there's a lot of pressure on him to kind of be the guy in that lineup. And how he handles that, to me, is what's going to make the difference for KC in 2025.
Yeah, now, I think that, too, it's one of those things, too, that I guess from a Royals fan perspective, we almost have accustomed to, we've just grown to understand, Bobby Witt Jr., he's just going to be the best player in the field day in and out, and we've almost gotten used to it. So, like, for us, it's guys, I don't think about, he's the X factor, he needs to have this, and that's because, we just expect that out of Bobby. We expect him to go 2 for 3 almost every night. We expect him to make some ridiculous play in the field every single night. So for me to sit here and say that it wasn't Bobby Witt Jr. is probably a little dumb, but yeah, what you're saying absolutely makes sense. It's just, I feel like from the Royals' perspective, it's just one of those, that's Bobby. It's just Bobby doing Bobby things. So,
right. No, and you know what? Like I said, with me as a Yankee fan, it's like saying Judge every night, doing something impactful. So it's like you kind of just become accustomed to it. But especially when you're dealing with, quote unquote, smaller market club like Kansas City, you need your stars to be your stars in order for the rest of that lineup to kind of take a breath and be able to do what they do, to be able to have a guy like MJ Melendez, kind of be able to take a step back, realize like, all right, I don't have to hit 40 in one night to be able to be impactful for this team. Like I can just start having better approaches. I can start taking that same kind of mentality that Bobby goes into every night with and kind of go after that, that style of play, that playing hard and being able to kind of just do what you do. and it then becomes expected. You know what I mean? So I think that while it may sound kind of obvious, but there is still something to it there.
100%. 100%.
Now, as we get into the next section here with the top prospect for the Kansas City Royals, they MLB.com has your top prospect as the first baseman, and I know I'm going to butcher this, but Jack Caglione.
Caglione.
Yeah, gotcha. So, what can you tell me about him?
Dude, it's one of those things as a Royals fan, you lay down, put your head on the pillow at night, and you dream of Bobby Witt Jr. and Jack Caglione hitting in the same lineup. I mean, people saw what he did at the University of Florida. I guess we just like Florida guys. Jonathan India, Brady Singer, we like Florida baseball players, apparently. But, no, Cags, dude is an incredible. Just a physical specimen. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's crazy strong. And you saw what he did at the University of Florida. Just power, light tower power. And that's his approach every time he's going up to bang, and that's all he's going to do. And for him to mature through the minors this year, I think is going to be very, very important. His short sample size after getting drafted last year, he had some strikeout numbers. He had the usual rookie ball, hey, this is what you got to work on type struggles. But he was hitting balls 122 miles an hour off the bat. The dude wears size like 18 shoes, I think, and to have that in the lineup every single night, and for it's not a hitter's paradise at Kauffman Stadium by any means, but I don't think it'll matter to Jack. He's gonna sit there and play the field how he wants to, and his game is just strictly power. I can't wait to see him in a major league lineup. He's a 45-plus homer guy a year if he can mature and produce the way he's supposed to. And he's a two-way as well. I know the Royals have not really gotten him going on the mound yet, which I agree with. I don't think there's any need to rush to it. Don't want to risk the injury to the arm at all or anything, but he showed flashes of he was hitting 100 miles an hour at the University of Florida. So I'm excited to see what they do, and when that time comes, if they get him on the mound, it'll be incredible. I think they will try and focus on his bat more than anything, and just maybe have him come out of the bullpen if they need a couple times this season in the minors. But I don't think he'll, as much as I want to, I don't think he'll be up there in Kansas City this year yet. But I could see him going. I could see him moving up the minor leagues very, very quickly.
Very quickly, yeah. When you look at, kind of what you have right now, being able to add in a 45 home run kind of guy, it is definitely something that would even boost this lineup even more for sure.
Oh, I'm so excited for him to get in the Kansas City. It's going to be a blast to watch him play.
So as in kind of discussing the team and the future of it, I want to hear what your bold prediction is for the Kansas City Royals in 2025.
My bold prediction is probably, I was thinking about this before we started the show. I think that we'll have a Cy Young in Cole Reagans, and then we're going to have an MVP in Bobby Witt Jr. in the same year. That's my bold prediction, is we're going to have the Cy Young and the MVP in the AL on the same team.
Listen, that's a safe and solid bet if I ever had one. I said it earlier. I genuinely believe that Bobby Witt has a couple of MVPs in his future. I think that his skill set is just so dynamic. What he does on both sides of the ball, there's definitely so much there with him. And I have loved Cole Reagan since you guys acquired him in that deal with Texas. I thought that was such a steal of a deal. And he has absolutely continued to mature, and I think that the sky is the limit for him. So I can see both of those things happening without a doubt. And so my bold prediction for Kansas City was, I feel like you guys are going to require an ace for a deep postseason run this year. I think that while right now, Cole Reagans is still a guy that I think is continuing to progress and to grow, and I think that he genuinely has ace-like stuff. I think that you guys go out and get that one extra guy at the front end of the rotation at the trade deadline for a deep postseason run. So that's my bold prediction for KC.
Yeah, I love it. I love that prediction. I was trying to think of who would we have the money to go get, who would we be willing to eat up a little bit of a contract for. If you guys want to throw us Garrett Cole, I'm sure that we would love having that over there from New York. But yeah, I think that for us, because, we have Cole Reagans. Seth Lugo had a fantastic year with us last year. I know there were some question marks coming in. He was mainly a reliever throughout his major league career, and then to switch to a starter. San Diego, a good year, proved me deal, got it, and then now he's having a fantastic start to his career in Kansas City. And then you have Michael Wacha, who was, even though he dealt with injuries last year, still put up great numbers for the situation. And so I think you're right. If we can have that guy that comes in, whether it be the trade deadline, whether it be a start of the summer trade type thing, I could see it very well happening. I don't know who that would be, but I wouldn't mind at all. But the only thing I am worried about, I just don't want to give up too much of our prospects for it. It's one of those things I know you got to give to get, but with the state of our farm system, it's very much still growing. We don't have, we're not the Dodgers. We can't just shell out prospects like it's a Subway sandwich. You just throwing prospects at other teams. But I would absolutely love to get us a prospect, or a valued ace guy who's been there, done that, proven stability. Big durable guy. I would love it.
Yeah, I can see it happening. I don't know what it would cost or who that guy would be right now, because there's just so much parity right now in the league, and there's so many teams that are so highly competitive, especially going into this campaign with the extra wild card that got added a couple of years ago. So I don't know who that guy might be, but I think that there is a big possibility that JJ Piccolo is going to go out and get a guy to kind of headline with Cole Reagans in that rotation for you guys. Now that leads me into my question then now, in terms of the pitching staff, and how would you grade that out?
Right now, I would grade it to where it'd be, give me I would say B plus A minus maybe. The only question is going to be that fifth starter right now for us. After Lorenzen, we have the first four kind of locked up. That fifth starter, it was Alec Marsh for us at the end of the last year, and while he put up some serviceable numbers. The consistency was there. It felt like he had 4 starts where he looked incredible, and then he had 4 starts after that he just got shelled. So it's one of those things that we have to get a guy in there, whether it be Alec Marsh has a bounce back year, although he did. They just reported today actually that he's got some shoulder tightness, and they're gonna shut him down from throwing for a little bit this spring, which very unfortunate. I wish the speedy recovery for him. But it's, him, Chris Bubich was incredible in the bullpen when he returned from Tommy John last year. And I know they said that they would love to keep him there, but they also said, hey, we drafted this guy as a starter. We brought him up. We developed him as a starter, and we'd love for him to go back to that. So it could be him. It could be any one of our prospects. Jonathan Bolin had a brief stint with us last year in the majors before getting sent back down. I think the only reason it's not higher is because of that fifth starter. I think to give a pitching staff a grade, A plus, it's got to have the 5 guys. It's got to have every guy that roughly what you're going to get every night that they're out on the mound. If they had not signed Estevez recently, that grade would have been lower. He's such a huge pickup for us in the bullpen. Him and Lucas Urseg, being able to close out games for us this year. That is a big reason. I think single-handedly he bumps our letter grade up by himself, that signing. I think the bullpen's pretty much fortified. I know that at least JJ's gotten what he wanted out of his checklist for the offseason. I'm happy with the bullpen. It's just we'll have to see who that fifth starter is.
Yeah. So that's very in line with what I had in my kind of game planning for this series. I had the pitching grade for Kansas City as a B. I think that there are questions to that fifth starter spot. I think that once Kyle Wright comes back and kind of could settle into that, if especially if he gets back to that 2021 form, then that definitely shoots up from there. I like what you guys have done with the bullpen with the pickup of Estevez. So yeah, I think that it's above average with the potential for more, depending on how some things shake out for sure. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, what would you grade out the offense for Kansas City heading into the 2025 campaign?
I would honestly grade it a B-, and I know some of my buddies who are Royals fans who are probably going to be watching this might tear my head off for that, saying it's a lot better than that. But I said earlier that our offensive production last year from the plate was abysmal is probably the best word I could put for it. Our defense, fantastic. We had a great, Hunter Renfroe is a cannon and right. Kyle Isbell leads the league in defensive metrics almost every single year. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, okay, that's great. You can catch fly balls, but you can't hit water if you fell out of a boat. And that's a huge problem when you have a lineup at the top of the lineup where you have Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, now Jonathan India, and Salvador Perez. And then it just tanks after that. It falls off a cliff. If we had signed, that's the biggest thing. I know JJ had said that he wanted to get a big outfield bat, power guy who could be a force to, alleviate some of the pressure off Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi at the top of the order to be in our outfield. But obviously didn't happen. It still could happen, but it hasn't yet. So until that does, I'd give it like a B- at best. We need to have a better outfield at the plate. And I'm hoping MJ can have a breakout year to bounce back. Like I said earlier, Hunter Renfroe's due for a bounce back. But yeah, that's my biggest reason why I would give it a low grade. If something happens and it changes, great. But I honestly don't see us having the money or, the free agents, they're dwindling down. There's not very many of them left. If we were going to go out and get an outfield bat, I'd say it's probably going to be by trade.
Yeah, so we're in perfect lockstep because I also had it as a B-. I think that with what you have in those three guys that you mentioned in the heart of that, the top of that order, with Bobby, with Vinny, with, Sal, now adding Jonathan is a big piece to that. But then there are serious questions after that. Obviously, like we spoke about, if MJ can have, kind of that breakout campaign that can help kind of extend that lineup, if Hunter Renfroe, like you said, can get back to being, kind of what we saw at his offensive peak, that can help lengthen that lineup, get to that 5-6 deep, and then you have some of those more questionable bats at the bottom of the order like most teams. But I do believe that as it stands right now, given no further moves at the time of this recording to kind of strengthen that offense, a B- is probably the range that, is most accurate. And obviously, like you said, you're probably going to have some grief given to you for that grading. But, I think looking from an unbiased observer that actually is pulling for Kansas City, and you'll see when we get into the predictions in a bit. But, I think that there are some obvious opportunities to upgrade for Kansas City. Now, how they go about it, obviously, again, a smaller market team has some different restrictions that they have to abide by. But I think that if they can kind of shore up, that bottom half of the order, it's definitely something that can grow from there. So I don't think that it's a necessarily bad grade overall being a B-, but I think that there is obvious room for improvement. So then we'll 100%. Jump in, to the, as I alluded to a moment ago, the divisional ranking predictions. Now, I don't know how deep you follow into the, Pagoda projections and Fangraphs, but Pagoda has you guys sitting in second place in the AL Central with a overall record of 81-81. Fangraphs has you with the same identical record of 81-81, but has you sitting in third place. Where do you think KC lands in the divisional battle?
Well, I used to follow Fangraphs. I used to follow Pagoda Graphs. But every year they think the Royals are a 12U Little League team. I swear. They don't. I think that they just throw numbers on the screen. Every year they, and then even when the years we were bad, they're projecting us to go like 500 or be in third. I'm like, dude, no, we're going to be last. and then it sucks, but we understood it. Now it's like, okay, we're good, and now you're saying we're going to be bad. It doesn't make any sense to me. I say we have an absolute great shot to win the division. Cleveland, obviously, in my opinion, is the clear second favorite there. Even with the Detroit, signing Flaherty back and everything, they made a couple good moves, and as well as their farm system's incredible. I don't think that they're at the exact push level of push for the playoffs that we are. I think we have a great shot to win the division. We played great within the division last year, especially, obviously you have Chicago, which to all Chicago fans, I just sincerely apologize. Believe me, I feel you. I've been there. But I think that if we can play like we played against the division last year, and then, with what we added this year in the offseason, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the development and the breakout of some guys, I think number one division is very easily attainable. Without a doubt in my mind.
So how many wins ballparking do you think the Royals end up with in 25?
I put it at 92.
Okay. So I'm not as high on the number win total, but I'm exactly in lockstep as far as the division. I think you guys win the division. And I don't think that it's really going to be that close in terms of like overall. So I have you guys listed with 89 wins. And I think that you guys are going to win the division by like 5 games. I think that it's going to be a relatively easy last week of September for you guys heading into the postseason to kind of get things lined up. But yeah, I very much believe in this squad. I think that even with the questions in that 5th spot in the rotation, I think that the addition of Jonathan India is so huge. I think that we are going to see some breakout performances from some guys in your lineup. And again, as I said in my bold prediction, I think you get another legitimate frontline guy to kind of help ease that burden and really kind of push the rest of the starters and kind of in line. And that also helps strengthen the bullpen when they don't have to go into games as frequently or as early. So I very much believe in the Kansas City Royals. I loved watching them and what they did in 24, and I think that they're just going to continue to grow on that in 25. So that's kind of my bold outlook, but I genuinely believe that Kansas City is going to be, without a doubt, fighting atop that list of the American League Central teams and kind of pushing everybody back.
Yeah, I think that too, it correlates with also the AL Central this year. I don't see it being very strong at all in terms of, compared to like the rest of the league. I think that you have Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota is probably going to take a step back with the offseason that they've had, in my opinion. Twins fans, maybe you can debate that, but I think that with having the weaker division, it definitely helps us a lot. If we were in the AL West, if we were, in the NL West, that's a whole nother story.
Whole different beast.
Right. We'd be talking very differently right now. So I do think that helps as well, but I think you're right that we pretty comfortably lock it up with that last week of September being fairly light on our part.
Yeah, no, I just think that, like you said, I think that there is going to be some regression from a team like, Cleveland. I think that they've done a whole lot with a whole lot less in terms of what they've done over the last, half decade to a decade with that squad. It's kind of been the sum of parts for them as opposed to any individual pieces. And I think that, kind of the revitalization of Salvador Perez last year, what we saw him do, what we've seen Bobby Witt do coming in second in the MVP battle. I think that there's going to be more of the same for Kansas City, and I see a whole lot less regression from KC than I do from the other teams in the division. So I think that you guys are going to have a very easy time. Obviously, you say that now before the season starts and all that, but I think that when it comes to kind of taking hold of the number one spot and fighting off the rest of the division, I think that it'll be an easier battle for you guys than anybody else in that division right now.
100%. I agree.
So that leads me then to, what do you believe is the biggest question facing Kansas City heading into the 2025 campaign? I
think it all goes back to I I could go one. I'm going to go two questions here. First one, can Bobby Witt Jr. sustain what he's been doing the past couple seasons? All we've seen is improvement from him. Can he continue to climb that mountain of what he's been doing, or at least sustain it? And two, can the outfield bats come alive? If our outfield bats come alive, we're a force to be reckoned with, especially with the additions of our bullpen and the infield of now what we can do with that. I know that Matt Quatrero, manager, with the way he loves to play with his lineups, he's perfectly fine sticking guys up and down the lineup and putting them in different places in the field. I think we see a lot of that again this year. I don't see why he would change it. So if our offensive bats can come alive, that's can they, and then can Bobby Witt Jr. can sustain his level of MVP voting? Because like you said earlier, you alluded to it. If Aaron Judge didn't exist on this planet, Bobby's the clear runaway favorite for MVP almost, I think, every single year for the next almost decade. If he can stay healthy and everything. If Aaron Judge didn't exist, there'd be almost zero competition. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think outfield offensive production and Bobby. That's about it.
No, I agree. I think that for this squad, and the question that I had was their pitching going to be enough to help continue to support that offense? And I think that when you look, obviously we spoke highly about the bullpen, and I think that they're going to do a good job locking down games. But it is going to be the question of, does Seth Lugo continue to do what he did last year? How does Cole Reagans continue to grow and to mature as a pitcher? What happens with Michael Wacha? We saw him being really good for you guys early on, and then it started to kind of fade a little bit. How does he bounce back? What do you get out of, Kyle Wright when he gets back? Who wins that fifth starter spot? So that was my big question for Kansas City. It's just kind of how is that starting pitching going to be able to support the other facets of this team long term over the course of a 162 marathon that is the Major League Baseball season.
Absolutely. I think that too, with you saying that, 100% agree. We have to have our pitching at least be exactly what they were last year. If we can have our pitching staff be exactly what they were last year, and then have our offensive outfield bats wake up, I think they won't be in good shape. I also think too with the bullpen last year, because our bullpen struggled early on in the season last year. We had flashes. Okay, James McArthur, he has 17 straight scoreless outings. Then he just falls off a cliff. You know what I mean? So I feel like that was a lot of our guys last year was, okay, these guys are looking like Sherlock bullpen guys. They're putting out fires left and right. It's great. And then, bam, they tailor off. Okay, what's going on there? We didn't have a consistent every guy chipping in, doing their part. It was one guy overloading the bullpen of, okay, I'm the only one doing good here. The rest of us are not doing great. With the addition of Lucas Irseg, Carlos Estevez, guys who have established themselves as incredible relievers in this league, I think that having that at the start of this season instead of adding them halfway through is going to be a huge, huge difference for us. If we can, like you said, if the pitching staff can sustain it, I think that's a great point that you added. For sure.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very high on this team. I very much believe in what they do. They have been, a team that has been fun to watch for the last couple of years, and I think that it's only going to get more fun in 2025. So that leads me to kind of the final question here. Actually, two more questions. What's the biggest frustration for Kansas City Royals fan base?
I think that because, it used to be that, okay, we're not spending money. It used to be that okay, when Dayton Moore was head of office, it was, well, we're just not going to spend money. Now we can make that argument. Players, fans can't sit here and say, well, we didn't do enough in the offseason. The last two seasons, we've had top 5, top 6, 7 payrolls that we've spent in the offseason. And so we can't have that complaint anymore. I think my complaint is that it's not even about the organization. It's about guys, because JJ's even came out and said in press conferences in the offseason, they've made offers to guys. Apparently they made a very substantial offer to Anthony Santander when they were pitching him in free agency, and he ultimately ended up signing somewhere else. And I just think that while we're doing our due diligence and while we are making offers to guys and checking in on guys, it's just the other players not pulling the trigger. That's my biggest frustration is I just wish the other players could see what we're building here and see the improvement, the drastic improvement that we've had the last couple seasons, and to say, hey, they're building something special here. The culture is shifting in Kansas City, and baseball's back. Baseball's back in Kansas City. We want to hop in, and that's my biggest frustration is I feel like not enough players are buying into that in terms of when they're trying to decide where they want to go in free agency or teams looking to trade with us and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely I can see that, and like you said, I definitely think that there's a lot to be hopeful for if you're a fan of the Royals, and if you're a player on the opposite side. If you can't see what's the groundwork that's been laid to build up this organization right now to where they are, I just think you're not paying attention, because there's so much to be excited about with this team right now. And it goes beyond Bobby. Obviously that's been kind of the main focal point for me throughout the course of this one, but beyond what he's capable of, and seeing the leadership of what Sal Perez does on a year in and year out basis. Like the guy's playing every single day as a catcher, and obviously the wear and tear that does, and you never see him without a smile on his face. And he's always a guy that has been that kind of leader for a team, the Roberto Clemente winner from last year. Like, this is an organization that has laid the groundwork, since JJ Piccolo's come in. It's kind of been that change in culture, from when Dayton Moore went out, a change in culture here. And I think that for Kansas City, seeing what they're, on the precipice of doing right now, I think that they're about to have a run of, consistency here over these next coming couple of seasons. As we saw, the biggest jump from year to year between win totals between 23 and 24, like a massive shift in the way that the team played. And I don't think that it was just a down year for the American League as to why Kansas City made it to the postseason last year. Like, you saw it in the battles. Like, this was a team that was prepped and ready, and I think that it's a team that is on the rise for sure. So I want to get your thoughts as we kind of wrap up here with the kind of titular nature of this series, and what do you believe is the state of the franchise for the 2025 Kansas City Royals?
I think, like you just said, it's on the rise. It's going great. I think there's obviously still room for lots of improvement on different fronts. The one thing that I am very excited for that I don't think enough people are talking about in terms of the state of our franchise is our farm system. I don't think it's getting talked about enough. Within the last few drafts, I feel like we've hit the nail on the head with a lot of good picks. And obviously it's baseball. People know it takes time to develop these guys, whether it's an arm or a bat. But I think the state of our franchise is in a really good spot, at least for the future. I would say within the next 3 to 5 years, where our farm system will be a top 10 in baseball. And I think that in terms of, if you're looking at the pure, like, hey, state of the franchise, if you're going to determine it right now, very simple answer, you look at a farm system. How is their farm system going to help their team with the state of the franchise, whether it's this year in 2025 or 3 years from now? I think that we have all the right tools to succeed. I think it all just has to fire on the same cylinder to do it.
I agree. So for me, I think you guys are a postseason team. I think you're going to be a division winner. I think that what Kansas City showed in their year-to-year change from 23 to 24 is only going to grow from there. I think that this is a team that, after getting that postseason experience last year, is going to want to get back there and is going to be hungry to get back there. I think that when you saw, especially even after the ending of the series with the Yankees, you saw Bobby Witt hanging around. You saw how you saw that look of hunger on his face. And I think that he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. I think the rest of the team is going to follow suit after that leadership that he has, and really push forward in 2025. And I think that it's going to be a very good season for Kansas City when it comes to Kansas City Royals baseball.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, give credit to owner John Sherman for giving the green light to JJ. Hey, go spend some money, build this club back up to what it is or what it potentially can be. We saw it in 2015. We had a lot of great draft picks. We had a lot of good development. Now, okay, the game shifted. Now it's about money. You got to spend money to win. And I credit John Sherman for that. I don't think people give him enough credit. I know with the stadium debacle and everyone going back and forth on the new stadium, he's taken some heat for that. But in terms of pure baseball on the field, putting the guys out there every single night, he's done an incredible job giving the front office, hey, free reign, go do it. Go spend the money, go get the guys. So credit to him. I think that, like you said, we're a division team. We can easily win this division. It's very, very well accessible for us to do so. And I see us making a good push. All that stands in our way is Aaron Judge.
No, for sure. Definitely a good season coming up. Like I said, all show long, I really believe in this squad, and I think that there's going to have a very big year ahead of them in 2025. So, Matt, let everybody know where they can find you if they want to hear more about your thoughts on Kansas City Royals baseball.
Yep, you guys can follow me on Instagram at Matty Brines. That's my last name, Brines, and then Matty's the first name. I'm there. You can guys hit me up anytime you want. I'm happy to talk ball. I was telling Jeremy here, we own a Bishop Athlete Representation. It's more spring league football, but you can find me on any of our business social medias, Bishop Athlete Representation. You can find me on there as well. I do a lot of sports marketing work for spring league athletes. So, yeah, Instagram is the main place you can find me, though. Matty Brines.
But definitely. So I want to thank you for jumping on with me, Matt. This was an absolutely fun conversation. Like I said, I think a whole lot about the Kansas City Royals, and I think good things are definitely on the horizon. So it was a pleasure having you on to be able to talk Kansas City Royals ball. So once again, thank you for joining me on this series.
Thank you so much. It was an awesome opportunity. I just appreciate you so much.
Absolutely, man. We'll definitely chat more in the future when it comes to KC Royals. So once again, Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as the bell for post notifications if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the audio side, make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review, as it does help us continue to build this community here. So once again, for Matt and myself, we want to thank you for joining us, and I'll catch you on the next one.